Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody from everywhere you're connecting to our session today. Welcome to the session that will focus on circular economy for less plastic wasted. My name is Elisa Tonda. I'm heading the team that is working on sustainable consumption and production and circular economy at UNEP, the United Nations Environment Programme. And today, I will be the moderator for this session where I will be joined by a fantastic group of speakers. What we will be concentrating on during the discussion of today is really to explore the potential that circular economy gives to us in terms of addressing the challenge of plastic pollution. And we will see how circular economy will allow us to keep plastic in the economy for as long as possible at its highest value. And we will see different experiences, different business models that have been able to take advantage of this opportunity in the region and globally. And prior to diving much more deeply into the discussion, I'm actually willing to hear, first of all, the opinion and the reflections from all of you who are connected to the sessions with us today. And I'll be asking to please put an initial poll on the screen to ask for your opinion on how much plastic packaging is made from recycled plastics today. Do you believe that today there's 0% of recycled plastic in plastic packaging, or 2%, or 5%, or 10%, or 20%? Where do you believe globally we sit in terms of having returned plastics into the economy through recycling? What is the level of progress we have achieved so far? And how much room is there still to go to improve that percentage? So I'm please asking you to let us know what is your opinion, and I'll look forward to start getting your sense of the progress we have achieved. I'm just waiting to read first results, which I hope will be coming on the screen soon. And we will really take advantage of the rest of the conversation to explore a little bit more how we can move that bar. And I'm seeing that, so I just received the result, and there's really a very high number of votes, more than 60%, that are concentrating on a 2% recycled plastic being on plastic packaging. This is followed by 5% being voted by you. So almost 28% of the participants indicate 5%. And then we have almost scoring equally 0% and 10%, and no one has voted for 20%. Actually, the reply to the question is that today we're actually sitting rather at a level of 2% of recycled plastic going back to plastic packaging. And indeed, there are, as we will hear, both interesting lessons learned we can take advantage on, but also huge opportunities for us to raise the bar of this percentage and increase the ambition. And we will concentrate on these in the context of the very, very first intervention, the opening intervention we're going to have today during this session. We have the pleasure to count on the presence of Ambrogio Miserocchi, who is Senior Policy Officer at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Ambrogio will be taking us through a global perspective and the global experience in promoting circular economy for plastics. And I would want to alert you in advance that immediately after Ambrosio's initial presentation, there will be some time for you to be posing questions to him. So I would want to please ask you to put your question in the questions box, so that I will have the opportunity of take advantage of your question to just inquire a little bit more with Ambrogio on the subject of his presentation. And Ambrogio, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Elisa. Just to check, can you hear me okay? Is okay.
Very well, yes.
Perfect. So as you said, I do work for the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. I have a short presentation for you that I put together. And I really wanted to start by saying that at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, we have an initiative which is called the New Plastics Economy Initiative. And the vision of such initiative is really to work for a world where plastic is not wasted in the first place. So I took the liberty of changing a little bit the subject of the agenda today from less plastic wasted to no plastic wasted, because I think that this is the hard vision and the hard job that we have to do in the coming years. Next slide, please. Today, I don't want to talk about all the problems of plastics, the problem of plastic pollution and things related to it. I want to talk about the global commitment that was published yesterday. So what's the global commitment? The global commitment is an initiative run together with the UN Environment Programme and unites more than 1,000 organizations, companies, governments behind the same vision where plastic never becomes waste. And there are different pillars of the vision, and I will skip them for today. But if we look at the next slide, this year we are at the third report. So we had 2019, 2020, and 2021. So we start to see a trajectory of what is happening in the world of plastic packaging and plastics. Now, here in this slide, I want to highlight the 3 key learnings that we could draw from the 3 reports that we published. The first one is that after decades of growth, virgin plastic use appears to have peaked for the global commitment brands and retailers. And this is set to fall faster by 2025. This doesn't mean that virgin plastic has peaked globally speaking, but this means that for a group of organizations that are actually aligned behind the same vision, it looks like virgin peak has been reached 2 years ago. Now, the second key learning is that progress has been largely driven by recycling. And this is not enough by far to solve the issue of plastic pollution. We need to do much more, and we need to understand that we cannot recycle our way out of the plastic pollution crisis. And the third and last point is that basically we now have a large number of businesses, a large number of countries that are supporting of a global agreement on plastic pollution, because there is a common understanding that voluntary initiatives, and the global commitment is a voluntary initiative, will not be enough. Therefore, we need to move one step forward, go beyond the current initiative that we see, and we need to have something that brings all the value chain, all the supply chain out of the journey and go beyond to address plastic pollution on a global level. Now, in the next slides, I will go through the key learning 1, key 2, and key 3, and I will provide you some insights. Now, the first is really why a peak in virgin is important, and why do we need to set ambitious reduction targets? Now, all the businesses and all the companies that are signatories to the global commitment have now set a reduction target, whether it's overall reduction target or virgin reduction target. And as I told you before, and you can see in the graph, basically we see that after 2018, it looks like a peak was reached. And now we know that all of the companies that are part of the global commitment have further reduction target to be achieved by 2025. And this means that only through the global commitment, we might see a 20% decrease in the plastic packaging put on the market. Again, this is mainly driven by recycled content and lightweighting, but we need to do more if we want to readdress the complex issue of plastic pollution. Now, I forgot to mention that the companies that are part of the global commitment represent 20% of the plastic packaging placed on the market. So we still miss an 80% of plastic packaging that is not addressed through the voluntary initiative of the global commitment. And this is why we need to go beyond that. Now, on the next slides, and I tell you why it is very much important to have reduction target. On the left side of the slide, you will see the business as usual line, so of course, the highest one, that basically would lead us, if nothing changes, if we continue on the business as usual scenario, basically if we keep on going on this path, the volume of plastic by 2040 will have doubled compared to 2016. The annual volume of plastics entering the ocean will have almost tripled from 11 megatons, million tons, to almost 30 million tons in 2040. And this is massive. And then at the same time, ocean plastic stocks will have quadrupled, so reaching over 600 million tons. And this means that basically there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean. And this is what we always say at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. Now, if we look at this slide specifically, you will see that there are different colors. The different colors represent the different strategies to really achieve a zero plastic waste in the future. And the first strategy, the most important one, is to eliminate. We need to eliminate what we do not need. The second strategy is to innovate. That means thinking about different packaging, different products, and I will go deeper on this topic in the next slide. But this is the second strategy. And the third, and sorry, not previous slide, still previous slide, sorry. But the last strategy is to circulate. And on this slide, I really want to point out that we have a prioritization. So the first thing we have to do is to eliminate. The second strategy is to innovate. And the third one is to circulate. And this is really clear when we think about the fact that we cannot recycle our way out of the plastic pollution. Recycling does play a role in all of this, but we need to go beyond. We need to look at eliminating and actually reuse models, for example. Now, if we go to the next slide, the big question, and I move to the key learning number 2. So actually, recycling is not enough to solve plastic pollution. What does it mean? How can we go beyond recycling? And to go beyond recycling, we really need a shift in our mindset. Because at the moment, we are only rethinking the packaging, or we are only thinking what to do with the packaging when it becomes waste. No, we actually have to start from scratch. We need to rethink the whole system, and we need to rethink the packaging, yes, but we also need to rethink the product. We need to rethink the business model, and we need to rethink the way we deliver products and services to people, to the final customer, to the final client. And it's just by applying this comprehensive innovation mindset, upstream innovation mindset, that we can really go beyond recycling in its own. And if we go to the next slides, I wanted to quickly touch upon the 3 strategies that I briefly mentioned before. Because by applying the upstream innovation mindset, we can really achieve the 3 key circular economy strategies that I mentioned before. Again, the first one is to eliminate, the second one is to innovate, and the third one is to circulate. And we have developed a comprehensive guide, and it's on our website if you want to have a look. It's called the Upstream Innovation Guide, where there are hundreds of examples of how these strategies were actually implemented in practice. So you have a lot of examples on eliminate, a lot of examples on innovate and circulate. So again, the key message here is we cannot recycle our way out of the plastic pollution. We need to look at a broad strategic approach, looking upstream and not just downstream and only at waste management. Now, going on, I want to move to the third key learning. So in the next slide, exactly this one, I want to move to the last point, so to the last key learnings of our report, that voluntary initiatives alone will not be enough. And that's why, together with our network of the Global Commitment, which again represents more than 1,000 organizations and more than 250 leading businesses, globally speaking, we have developed a paper that aims at talking to governments mainly of countries where extended producer responsibility schemes do not exist. And this paper really lay out that voluntary initiatives are necessary in the short term to lead the way, to show what is possible to do. But in the longer term, the only way to provide dedicated, ongoing, and sufficient funding to circulate in the packaging we place in the market is through extended producer responsibility. And now we have more than 100 leading businesses, 150 organizations and more that actually recognize and have endorsed this statement, recognizing EPR as a crucial and necessary part in the transition to a circular economy. So it's not a nice to have, it's a must to have. And then in the next slide, now I know that today we are in the, we are together with the UN Environment Programme. And I know that there are discussions going on at the global level about the global agreement on plastic. But I just want to highlight the fact that a large number of businesses are now supportive of a global agreement on plastic. We are running together with WWF, a business manifesto calling for a UN plastic treaty. And now we have 90 leading companies, actually. I have to update the figure, but now we are 90 companies that are calling on UN member states to adopt a global agreement on plastic. Then we also have, we know that there are more than 2/3 of UN member states that are actually already considering such a global policy framework. And most importantly, there are more than 2 million people globally that already signed a petition through WWF calling for a legally binding agreement on plastic. So this is the civil society call, let's say. Of course, everyone is free to join this petition. And then I want to conclude, Elisa, and this is my last slide, the next one, on what does it mean a comprehensive circular economy approach. And on this slide, I have summarized the policy framework that we need to really address a comprehensive circular economy, which again is not just about waste management, is about rethinking our whole economy, rethinking our system. And rethinking this system comes with amazing opportunities, both from the environment, of course, because we are reducing waste going into nature, but also for people, so societal effect and also economic benefits. But this is just to say that to really look at the circular economy in a comprehensive way, we need to look at different goals. And we need to look at different goals because we do not only, again, have to look at waste management, well, we need to find measures, and in this case, I'm talking about policy measures, that are able to stimulate design for a circular economy, manage resources to preserve value. We need to make the economics work, and this might mean that shifting investment, shifting subsidies, and shifting policy strategies, because we need the private and public investment to go into innovation, infrastructure, skills for a circular economy. And then last but not least, we really need to work on policies and systems for collaboration if we really want a systemic change, because this is what we need today to have no plastic waste in nature, in the environment. So this was my slide, last slide. So thank you very much. I hope there are questions. If not, Elisa, I can stay here for a little bit if there is any discussion coming out of this presentation.
Thank you very much, Ambrogio. It was really a very interesting presentation. And I'm still waiting to see the first questions from the audience coming in. But I'm obviously very curious myself as well. And I'm going to start with a question from my side, Ambrogio. And I wanted to get a sense from you of maybe some examples, some cases of businesses that have taken the path that you were describing in the presentation, so that we have some concrete experiences ahead of us. And meanwhile, I'm looking out for questions coming from our public today.
Thanks, Elisa. Indeed, I agree that examples are always extremely important to really visualize what we're talking about. Now, I didn't put them in the presentation in the interest of time, but I want to mention a few examples. And the first one that comes to my mind is actually, think about vegetables, think about fruits. And this is the most common example. And then I will give you another one. But when we think about vegetables and fruits in the supermarkets, they're always wrapped around plastic. Now, we do have solutions that can avoid the plastic wrapping around by simply spraying an edible coating on the vegetables. So you have a spray, so you can coat the vegetables and the fruits, and they last longer, so you prevent food waste, and you also prevent plastic packaging to be wasted in the first place. And now another example that I wanted to share with you, which I love, is basically think about cleaning products. When you go into the supermarket, you always see long aisles of cleaning products. They all come with the same bottle and the same cup or the same spray. So the format is very much similar. Now, there are companies that are working on tablets, so a little tablet that you can bring home. You put it in one container that you already have at home, you mix it with water, and then it's done. And then it means that you have the same cleaning products just out of one tablet without using all the plastic packaging that you have. So these are just two examples that really make you think how to rethink the packaging, because we eliminate the packaging kind of. You rethink the product because you have a dissolvable tablet instead of 2 liters of cleaning product. Or you can even rethink the way you deliver. And sorry, last example is a Chilean-based company. It's called Algramo, but there are also others. Basically, you can go to a moving stall. So this stall moves around the city. And you can go there with your container and you buy your product from a moving store. So you go with your own packaging. And you see that here is changing the delivery business model.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Elisa. If people want really to see all the examples, they can go on the website, Upstream Innovation Guide, and there are 200 and more examples of this.
It comes across a lot of passion for the agenda from your side as well, Ambrogio, jointly with the examples. Ambrogio, we received a question from the audience, and there's some curiosity around what are the most important issues in a global agreement from the perspectives of those businesses that are behind the initiative that you were mentioning in one of your last slides?
That's a very good question. And the business call for a UN treaty really lays out the business rationale, so the economic rationale for having a global agreement on plastic. And one of the key issues is that today we really have a patchwork of solutions, globally speaking. And this basically creates a burden to, for example, trade, economic cooperation, opening different business markets, compliance issues. So I would say that this, from a business perspective, is really the most important thing to address. And now going beyond the business rationale in itself, I think that the most important issue for a global agreement at this moment is to really align behind a common vision. And I think that the success of the global commitment really comes from having everyone aligned behind the same vision and working on increasing targets, increasing objectives. But we have a vision, we have a plan, and we know what we would like to achieve. It's not easy, but we need to do it. And I think that this is also the most important issue for a global agreement.
Thank you very much, Ambrogio. I see I probably have 1 more minute, so I take advantage of it with one quick question from my side again. Ambrogio, there's one element that frequently comes up in conversation with businesses, which is for those businesses that require financing, financial support to shift to circular business model. Do you get a sense that this is a conversation that the finance sector is ready to have?
Definitely yes. And I forgot to mention that as part of the business call, we have more than 20 financial institutions with more than $5 trillion in asset under management, because they are also realizing that circular economy is an opportunity in the long term of de-risking their investment, of really also contributing to tackling climate change and biodiversity loss, which we know are crucial for both the finance sector and the corporate sector, because there already are targets on climate change and emission reduction and biodiversity impact. And we know that circular economy can tackle all of this at the same time. And so, yes, to your question, yes, there is, the finance sector is ready, and the finance sector is also calling for a global agreement on plastic. And the finance sector is aware that the circular economy approach would de-risk their long-term investment. So, yes.
Thank you very much, Ambrogio, and thank you for having been with us today and for having shared with us your experience and the experience of the companies that are working closely with you. And I'll be moving now to the impressive panel that has joined us today for the session. Ambrogio, thank you again. There are 5 fantastic panelists that will be with us for the continuation of the session today. So we have with us Ms. Esther Han, who is the Chief Sustainability Officer of City Developments Limited. Esther, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you. We have Dr. Chindarat Taylor, who is founder and director of the Resource Efficiency Pathway and vice president of the Solid Waste Management Association of Thailand. Chindarat, welcome.
Thank you.
We have Mr. Kian Shi, who is the CEO of Heng Kiap. Kian, welcome to the session.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We have Mr. Barak Eckstein, founder of Tontoton. Barak, welcome to the session.
Thank you very much.
And we have Miss Selisa Trepipi City. Selisa, apologies. We did a lot of training for me to pronounce correctly your surname. But I think the training was not enough. Please.
It's Trepipi.
Thank you very much for having saved me, Salisa. Salisa is working at the Environmental Justice Foundation. Thank you very much, Salisa. And thanks everybody from this impressive panel for having agreed to be with us today. I'll actually kickstart the panel by asking the panelists to talk a little bit about themselves and their experience, and few of them will have also a few slides to share with you to just tell a little bit more about their work. And I'm going to ask Esther to please break the ice among the panelists and share with us a little bit of her experience. Esther, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and my pleasure. And I think definitely just now the previous speaker has set the scene very well. And I would like to, I think there's some echo. Yeah. Okay, this is better. Yeah. So can I bring up the slide, please? Yeah. So, well, definitely the data is very clear. And in fact, the marine debris, that we see today, 80% are actually from land-based sources. That means people, businesses on land actually are responsible for 80% of such marine waste. And next slide, please. Yeah. So as businesses, we definitely can work together with regulators and with, people sector and individuals to reduce, such waste towards a low plastic, and for us, we are in the building sector. So I will show a few examples, how we actually working towards a low plastic built environment. Next slide, please. Well, we are headquartered, CDL is headquartered in Singapore, but we are operating in 29 countries and regions. And we are basically, building homes and office buildings, and also a landlord as well as hotel managers. So in Singapore, definitely there is urgent need for us to reduce and recycle waste. And plastic waste is actually one of the main waste streams in Singapore. Over the last 4 decades, we actually we have seen that waste that generated locally has increased sevenfold, 7 times more. So it is quite an urgent task that we have to reduce it. Otherwise, we're going to run out of space in our landfill by 2035. So how do we make a transition to a circular economy is very important. Apart from reducing waste, we also have to look at recycling, and also like what the previous speaker said, we have to look at circularity as well. So definitely we have already taken the hint very clearly from the government's Zero Waste Master Plan that was introduced in 2019, setting goals and target for reduction. And the Green Plan also, reducing waste is also one of the key pillar. And by 2030, we aim to achieve 70% overall recycling rate. Next slide, please. So as business, how do we actually contribute, in the construction environment, a business? So we know very well that, we need to partner, with the government agencies, but internally, we also set clear policies within our own organization and also along our value chain. We can't do it alone. We have to engage our contractors, our engineer, our architect, builders, and also looking at sustainable building materials and all. And we also have quite a sizable space for tenants. We have actually achieved 100% green lease since 2017, and advising, and also encouraging our tenants to adopt green, approach in the way they retrofit their spaces, and also how they manage and dispose their waste as well. And one of the examples that we do is we call it Eco Bank. Actually, we launched it about 4-5 years ago, and every year we collect a lot of used goods, whether it is clothing, whatever items, and they are still in good condition. We collect it and we sell it, for charity. And before COVID hit us, we actually collected, every year for 5 years that we have accumulated about 73 tons of such used good, and also saving about carbon by about 19,000 tons. Not a lot, but every ton counts. Next slide, please. I want to show that some of the example that we have actually done to support the so-called our national Clean and Green Singapore every year. And apart from that, we need to enable our building users, whether it is tenants or our home users, and we provided them with, since 2008, we provided the so-called twin chute pneumatic waste disposal system that aim to segregate normal waste from recyclable waste, of course, plastic inclusive. So these are the, we call it the enabler for them you need to make it easy for building users to really go on to adopt recycling. And the next slide, please. We're also looking at the, the overall 3R efforts, not just plastic, but also the overall food waste or other waste disposal, even e-waste disposal as well. So we have 12 buildings that are under our direct management, and we've been engaging tenants, providing facility, and whether it is recycling bins or even we call it an eco digester that actually transfer food waste into compost. So all sort of recycling that we have to really enable our users to do so, and particularly focus on plastic waste. And the next one is a very exciting project. The next slide that we are looking at is actually one of our building is Tampines Concourse. It made history in 2009, and it became the first carbon neutral building in Asia Pacific in 2009. So we've been looking at how we can continue to step up, and we are actually making it the first plastic neutral building worldwide. And hopefully all things will go smooth. December we are going to receive this certificate already, and actually CDL work with this plastic neutralization service agency called 7 Clean Seas since middle of this year, and we have gone through the study, the pilot, and also audit, to certified, to look at neutral credit, plastic credit. The process is similar to carbon neutrality, and but this is really the pilot that we hope to set an example for other building users to so-called plastic neutralize their building by engaging their tenants and users to really reduce and also recycle plastic waste. My last slide is actually like what just now the previous speaker talked about, circularity. The next slide, please. Yeah, so we have to look at how we can creatively solving two problems together. First one is actually the plastic waste. Secondly, is because sand and cement are one of our top building materials, and it's also getting more costly and having shortage of such material. So we actually engaged the local material scientists in the polytechnic and university. So we have actually started a pilot to turn such mixed plastic waste to building material, plastic lightweight aggregate into a building material for non-structural applications such as the lightweight concrete wall panel. So if this one we can make it successful, we can really solve two problems, turning waste into valuable building materials. So this is my last slide, and I look forward for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. So we'll keep fingers crossed for the certification of the plastic neutral building in December. You'll let us know when the certification is concluded.
Certainly.
And thank you very much for having opened our eyes to both what your company is doing, but also how you're engaging others, the community, those that are operating in your buildings. So very, very good recommendations and very interesting experience. Thanks, Esther. I'll be giving the floor next to Chindarat. Chindarat, may I ask a bit of a similar introduction to you so that the audience know a little bit more about you?
Thank you, Eliza. I'm delighted to be here. And hello and good afternoon and good morning. I'm so happy to talk about the two of my favorite subjects, ocean and plastic, but not when they mix together. I'm Chindarat Taylor, founder and director of Resource Efficiency Pathway, an environment and infrastructure consultancy operating in the Asia Pacific and the UK. I'm also the Vice President of the Solid Waste Management Association of Thailand. And today I would like to share learnings from our plastic footprint reduction projects, which we completed recently. The objective of this project was reduction of plastic at source via partnership with private, public, and educational organization. The focus was upstream. Okay, so we want to eliminate the root causes of the problem because more than 80% of marine plastic pollution come from land-based activity. The key sector in Thailand that we engage with food and beverage, plastic and packaging, and hotel and hospitality. They're all active in implementing circular economy of plastic. For example, redesigning of the packaging to make it easier to recycling, reduce the use of plastic or no plastic by substituting with recycled plastic or alternative material. Some companies have international customers and need to increase the recycled content of their the plastic use to comply with the new regulations, such as the UK plastic tax that is coming. Reduce, reuse, recycling, and take back of plastic is happening in the factory and hotel in our project. For example, green conferences at the Sukoson Hotel have proved to be very popular with customers. If solutions to the plastic problem are market-led and financially viable, they will be sustainable. Company will not go back to the business as usual using the linear economy model. So we found that the private sector in Thailand is substantial and diverse. These companies have shown that they can play a key role in this plastic transformation. Some solutions are transitional at this stage due to the immaturity of the infrastructure and regulation. To us, I think the most important aspect is that change is happening and accelerating. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing this experience. And Chindarat, I loved your opening sentence of you having two passion, one being ocean and the other one being plastic, but they should not mix. Thank you very much. And I'll be giving the floor to one of the other panelists that we are having today, Kian. Kian, I'm going to give you the floor to share a little bit more of what your company is doing. Kian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Eliza. Well, first, I think, we just want to share that to HHI, we do not believe in plastic pollution, rather plastic ignorance. I think, a lot of people look at plastic scrap as scrap because, not understanding the inherent property. So if you give us a plastic scrap, we will look at it from the inherent mechanical property, the calorific property, or even the chemical property that we can recycle this, through our integrated recycling model. Again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Kian. I'm the CEO for HHI. We have heard a lot of high-level discussion today, and perhaps, it is good, for us to switch perspective to find out what happened at ground zero. I started my plastic recycling journey, at the age of 10, collecting recyclables from household to household with my parents and with my sibling during school holidays. So many of us here in Southeast Asia are familiar with this, that, bio newspaper, Beri Surat Khabar Lama, Soju Baozi, if you will. So we will basically be on the truck and then collecting all these recyclables and then separating that. So as you can see, at a young age, when other people see waste, my parents already taught us how to see the worth within the recyclable itself. So anyway, we make our way up from being a curbside collectors, mobile pickers, yard owner, processor, and finally aggregator. I think that journey has been very, very meaningful for me. And it really helps me to understand the big challenge of fragmentation within the informal community. Because of the fragmentation, the labor costs usually is very high and very inefficient. That's a lot of non-value adding logistics. And most importantly, we see a lot of idling capacity across the entire value chain. If we look into the plastic value chain, it is broken into 6 independent processes. Company A is doing collection, B is doing sorting, C is doing crushing, washing, mixing, finally extrusion or melting that down to the resin form or granulate. So A, B, C, D, E, F, if you will. And as material go from A to F, cost goes up, quality goes down, and sometimes we are not quite sure with the governance as well. So without this consistency and the governance behind it, therefore we have the bad reputation of recycled material being substandard in terms of quality, and also the entire plastic recycling cost being higher than it should. So what HHI has done is that we integrated the entire process. Now, by integrating the entire process, we will then be able to reduce the non-value adding logistic. We are able to optimize the entire material flow. Most importantly, we are able to preserve the integrity of the base material so that within our entire model, we can customize and create very high performance niche industrial material, which currently we are supplying to the top home appliance and also automotive makers of the world. Now, one of the other things that's also very important for us to address the challenge of fragmentation is standard. Because of the lack of industrial standard, we have all the problem with fragmentation. So HHI curate the internal standard and share that with our 28,000 independent recycling operators. And that becomes the de facto industrial standard, or the industrial playbook, if you will, so that we will work with our community to convert the mixed plastic scrap to a feedstock with integrity through manual separation or semi-automated separation. And once it comes to our factory, we then use state-of-the-art technologies such as near-infrared, optics, automated optic separator, XRF, so on and so forth, in order to further improve the purity of the material. And therefore, it helps us to customize all this unique high-performance industrial material, which we call smart plastic material. We can make, plastic to be antibacterial, that there will always be a thin coat of membrane that's killing bacteria. We can make it electric conductive, we can make it very hard, we can make it very soft. So right now we have more than 800 formulations within the company. HHI started in year 2002, so we are 19 years old, going 20 in February next year. We collect 60,000 tons of plastic scrap within Malaysia itself only, and out of which we also collect 2,000 tons of ocean-bound plastic material. We believe that to solve fragmentation, integration is the best way to go. And because of our integrated model, excuse me, because of our integrated model, we are able to control the entire chain of custody. So one of the things that we have done in 3 years ago is that we noticed a big trend because of the marine pollution, as what was mentioned earlier by Jindarat. Because of the marine pollution, we noticed that consumers are rejecting plastic. So what we do is that we decided to go into a circularity model. Our HHI circularity model involves 5 C. The first C is collect. We collect the ocean-bound plastic. Excuse me. I beg your pardon. We collect the ocean-bound plastic, and then the second C is that we convert it into a very specialized industrial material that fulfill all the tough industrial standard. And then we find co-creator as the third C, who are industrial designer. In this case, a Dutch furniture designer. And then we work with one of the largest furniture supplier of the world to basically create a chair that is made from ocean-bound plastic. Now, because we are fully integrated, we can then provide the chain of custody or the entire traceability to showcase our circularity of this ocean-bound plastic chair called Living Coral Louver chair. And then we will be then piecing the entire traceability through our digitalization solution. And namely, one of the example is to put that under QR code that we can communicate with consumer that, you might have 10 different chairs that you're collecting, but you could actually see that each and every one of them actually comes from different area of origin and basically comes with a different sustainability narrative. To do that, we will need to be certified. Certification is very important. Not only that we are SMETA compliance for social compliance, we are also the first company of the world to achieve the ocean-bound certification from Zero Plastic Ocean. And that standard becomes a very important thing, to us to ensure the authenticity of what we are trying to do. And going forward with what we are doing, digitalization will become a next level of authenticity in order to capture the entire ESG relevance or impact that we have been able to make. And I suppose, I will just pause here and then pass the airtime back to you, Eliza. We will be more than happy to chat more about the plastic circularity model of HHI.
Kian, thank you very much. Very, very interesting experience, the one you have been sharing with us. I particularly like your reference to paying attention to the quality and the role that standards are playing into that, and the transparency of what is happening in the whole system and the importance of communicating it outside. You started making reference to, let's say, winning some of the misconceptions that the users of your product might have. For that, thank you very much, Kian, and looking forward to continuing our conversation. I'll now be giving the floor to our next speaker today, Barak. I'm very much looking forward to hearing more from you on the ton-to-ton experience. Barak, I understand you have a few slides to share with us as well.
Yes, I have. Thank you, Elijah. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Barak Eckstein, founder of Ton-to-Ton. Just a few words. We started this program, I think, because from investigating and finding solution to produce some product, we found that there is a missing part in the loop of closing the recycling system, which divide basically to recycle and non-recyclable plastic. Next slide, please. So we're based in Vietnam, and we work today in Cambodia and developing more countries. And when we start to go around the country and look for the recyclable materials to create the ocean-borne plastic, just like HHI doing very successfully, we found that the collecting system in Vietnam is quite good. There is a lot of collecting by the informal waste pickers. But then we start to see those views, which we know from before, and I'm sure that everyone that's living in Asia, Pacific, and any developing country know, and we start to check why those materials are not being collected, so the big problem occurred. And what we can divide basically the market is to these different materials and the lack of the industry to recycle and the ability to use those materials again. So how can we support this kind of scenery? How can we solve this problem? And the idea of plastic credit basically is to create immediate impact and to be the missing link of the closing the loop on plastic pollution. Next slide, please. So on the same beach from different angle, we can see, very clearly that there is a part of packed materials. It's all the recyclable plastic. It contains plastic bottles, hard plastic, tin cans, and more things that can be sold in the commodity market for recycling. So the market is very strong. There is very strong demand. I think today the price of recycled materials start to be more expensive than the virgin material because there is very strong demand in the market. It's become like a market standard today to use. We see only 2% before in the survey that we did. It's amazing, but I know that different companies already declared that they're going to be 100% plastic, using plastic recycled into their product, but the non-recyclable plastic still is out there without any option. So we talk about the post-consumer non-recyclable plastic waste that typically in those countries, Asian countries, is not being collected. With figures of 53% of plastic waste that not being collected in 6 out of 10 Asian countries. So it's a huge percentage. And from this amount, the one that is collected is only the value material. So this is what basically plastic credit can solve immediate until the ideal idea of circular economy will kick in. Especially it will take more and more years to kick in those type of communities, the coastal, the poor communities, until it will go from Europe, from the US as a model to Asia. It will take more time, and we don't have this time, unfortunately, with plastic waste. Next slide, please. So what we're trying to achieve is this creating the system that from the time that waste picker, the typical informal waste picker, will go around the beach or any place that is polluted, and he can find plastic waste that he can pick up and sell. So he will pick up the plastic bottle, the PET, or any other out plastic that he knows that someone will buy from him, but the rest of the plastic he will not touch. Even if we will see this plastic bottle inside the plastic bag, he will throw the plastic bag back to the ground and will take only the plastic bottle because this is a value material. And until, again, the circular economy can embrace those materials, we need to find a solution for this, and this is what we did. So the idea is to create a new market for the low-value plastic, for the non-recyclable plastic, and to create it right now at the moment, and not wait until further procedures to kick in, and to get to the result of clean area that waste pickers will collect all the materials and can sell them, basically. Next slide, please. So this is the current situation in a lot of places outside the big cities. I would say sometimes inside the big cities in Asia. This is in Vietnam and Cambodia. We see this sceneries quite a lot. A village outside the city has no waste management system, or only partly. The people have no other choice but to hire some waste picker to pick up the waste from their doorstep, and the waste picker, with a cart, we just take it outside the village and try to hide it somewhere, burn it mostly, or throw it away in any place. And in the next rain, next floods, like there is right now, very strong rain outside here, this plastic will drift into the next waterways and then to the ocean, and then it will be basically almost impossible to collect it, or maybe in very, very small percentage, like there is some great programs they're doing. But it's a drop in the ocean, again, from what there is out there. Same in Cambodia, we see the same situation, and this is what we want to change, and this is the system basically that we need to create to help to solve it as soon as possible. Next slide, please. So the idea of using plastic credit in those remote area on the places that there is no collecting at the moment is to help to put back the non-recyclable plastic into the circular economy. So if there is a production, use, and recycling that we know, which this is the idea of circular economy, together with reuse and reduce that have to come with some different solutions. Otherwise, people will not reduce, and some financial incentive that will help people to do it, especially the poor communities. So the plastic credit can help to bring back the non-recyclable plastic into the system. So the idea is to create the alternative waste management and supportive waste management system that can benefit the community and benefit the environment, and eventually in different ways that we will talk how to do it, and connect all those parties together, while in our system, what we are doing, manage to reduce CO2 emissions by 25% and reduce the use of coal in heavy industry, in cement industry, that can use plastic waste instead of coal. Plastic, it's turned to be more energetic. There is more energy in plastic than in coal. So it's more reasonable to use it in this system that eventually can filter and create a greener solution. Next slide, please. So this is basically what Tone to Tone is doing. We focus on the impact that we can bring to places that there is right now no waste management. If we will not do it, nobody else will. Plastic will stay in the environment, reach to the ocean or get burned. And this is the model that fix us and lead us. And from the community point of view, we understand that if there is nobody to collect it from them, and there is no means to address it and to take it out or to do anything with it, so this is the reality that they will live in. And the most suffer, the biggest casualties, I say, or the victims of plastic pollution, unfortunately, it's the poorest communities that they live on those places, especially if they are outside the touristic place. So also the government and hotels and anyone not care so much because it's not in the public eye. And this is the place when plastic credit can kick in and treat those places and create a solution. Next slide, please. So the idea is to move from this scenery to a clean scenery through this project with integrating the community. Next slide, please. We'll go a bit faster. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the project come, you know, all the idea of plastic credit that we are doing is come from the big problem of that we see in the environment, and then on the same time to create a financial system that can support this activity and benefit all the parties. Eventually, we talk about win-win-win situation that starts from the environment that will be cleaner and prevent plastic from reaching the ocean and the natural environment, and support the local community, the vulnerable community that's suffering the most from it, and eventually all of us. All the plastic that we see in this picture, basically most of it coming from the ocean. So it's a tight plastic that keep coming. We keep cleaning this beach in Honsen Island, but it's a daily. You come after a high tide, low tide, and you see the same, and the community just throw away their waste as well because it's polluted anyway. And then how to connect companies into this solution and help them to bring more impact into their brand, into the product through supporting this activity. Next slide, please. So the idea it's working when we close the circle together with the supporters, basically the financial model of plastic credit. It's working with the companies to define their impact plan, how much they want to invest. It can be in terms of offsetting neutralization. So it's only a way to quantify basically the amount that they want or need to invest and to support, basically to reduce the same amount of plastic that they're putting in the market and to take it out. But it doesn't have to be like that only. The story can told in different ways. The important thing is the impact that's happening eventually in places that if we will not do it, nobody else. And this is what they're getting basically. And so based on this plan, let's say it will be 100 ton, we will collect with the local communities, with our system, those materials into our collecting center, which I will show later, and then recycle the material, find the solution, use it as alternative energy, replacing coal in cement industry and raw materials, and verified and certified through a certificate protocol created by Zero Plastic Oceans for neutralization and audited by a third party. Next slide, please. So eventually the 4 pillars of the program, we will conclude the system and a bit more. It's to focus on the low value plastic, on the mistreated materials that cannot be recycled. There is no other option at the moment, at least on the places that we are working. There is maybe some innovation technologies, but they are still not there. So the only way, if we collect them, is to take them to landfill, which we don't want. And the better solution that we found to treat very big amounts of quantities, it's by the co-processing. And everything is done by the Zero Plastic Ocean certificate that defined exactly what is OBP, ocean-borne plastic, how to collect, how to engage with the waste pickers, the code of conduct of the program, and basically all the process of certification. Next, please. The collaboration with the communities is it's a very big part in this program. We set up a collecting center. We called it a Community and Environment Plastic Collecting Center. So we give the community option to bring the waste to us, and they will get money. We not talk only about waste pickers, so only about people from the community that can use this system to generate extra income and getting more better working conditions. So we will supply full equipment of PPE for them to work in. And there is some people that are just coming and bringing 50, 100 kilo from the certain areas that will, after they onboard the program, and we guide them and basically train them and how to do everything is certified, and then we can support them, and then they can get the extra income to support their life and get their own environment cleaner, which is very important, because if they will not do it through us, basically it will not happen. Next, please. So this is the solution. I see one question here in the question. So we burn the plastic. So it's not exactly burn the plastic. We actually using the plastic as alternative energy, and because there is more energy in plastic than in coal, and the system is 24/7 monitored for CO2 emissions and other toxins, that basically most of them get destroyed in the process, because we get to 1,500 degrees that destroyed basically everything. So it managed to create a cleaner process in cement. So if we talked before about green buildings, companies development that invest also in plastic credit can reduce the CO2 emissions that created by producing the cement that they are using later on, and basically create a greener product building by supporting this and many others. So for us, it's a very good option. Next slide, please. So all the system basically, and this is what's very important in this market, the new market of plastic credit, that it must be verified and certified, not just by us, by third parties. So we follow the Zero Plastic Ocean certification, the first company in the world that's doing this product for neutralization. We heard the HHI before, they're doing it for the recycled materials. We are doing it for the non-recycled materials. And this is an example of how the certificate look. Until this month, we collected more than 100 tons in different places in Vietnam and Cambodia. It's around 12 trucks, huge trucks of waste. So the impact is quite big, and it's all verified and certified by auditor control unit. Next, please. Eventually, the last part is the third win. It's how to connect the company, the supporter, basically, to the system, to the solution, to the certified solution. So it can be by neutralizing the product, or creating a system that is a plastic offset or plastic neutral, or just to engage your consumer in different ways, and how to influence them so they can be more aware of the plastic they are using, especially the non-recyclable plastic, and all in a certified way. Next, please. And this will be my last slide. Basically, to create the system, we need to connect a lot of groups and parties, from the government to waste pickers, communities, the heavy industry, logistic parts, and certification, and the international community, the international companies, bring them all together to find a solution to what, at the moment, it's an unsolved problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barak, for sharing the experience with us, and we'll come back to you with some of the questions. We're actually starting to receive questions from the public of the session, and I invite more questions to come. But prior to moving to the question and to the discussion, we have one speaker to whom I'm still not given the opportunity to share with us her experience. and her work and to tell more about herself. It's Salisa. Salisa, welcome to the floor.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Please go share with us a little bit more about yourself and your institute.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hi, everyone. So I am Salisa, and I am a project coordinator with the Environmental Justice Foundation, or EJF, based here in Bangkok, Thailand. And my work focuses on marine plastic pollution and how to implement a circular economy approach to tackle marine plastic waste with a very special focus on fishing gear. And you might ask, why fishing gear? Today, there are many efforts initiated to tackle plastic waste in Thailand and in the region of Southeast Asia. However, very little attention is being paid to the management of the abandoned, lost, or discarded fishing gear, which accounts approximately 10% of all marine plastic litter. And fishing gear, once enter the oceans, it continues to catch both target and non-target species, or it's something we call ghost fishing. It can also entangle charismatic species and cause physical damage to coral formations and coral reefs. And also, Southeast Asia has a considerable fishing fleet that exports to all over the world. Some forms of fishing gear last only up to 3 months, and this contributes to a high turnover of netting material, which is made of plastic, predominantly nylon PA6, PP, and HDPE. So to address these challenges, EJF has launched Net Free Seas in July 2020, which is a community-based recycling solution that connects over 100 fishing communities, both in the Gulf of Thailand and the Andaman Sea, with Thai recyclers and end-user product producers to create this supply chain that turns discarded fishing nets into production material. And so far, we have collected and recycled 23 tons of fishing nets into lifestyle products like this one that I have with me. This Vershark is made of gill nets, nylon PA6. And here with me is a turtle coaster. Goes perfectly with each other. And within the course of 1 year, we have generated over 200,000 Thai baht, or $6,000 for communities that we work with from the selling of fishing nets. And here, incentivization is utilized to encourage participation from local fishing communities, as well as to provide them secondary source of income to be resilient to unexpected problems, nowadays, such as COVID-19 situation or the environmental threats such as climate change. This project is also well received and supported by the government agencies in Thailand, such as the Department of Fisheries, the Department of Marine and Coastal Resources, and the Department of National Parks, Wildlife and Plants. And with that in mind, we are also working on evaluating the scope and the scale of the impacts of fishing gear waste in order to inform policy and decision-making processes for fishing gear management in the future at the local, national, and hopefully regional levels as well. And because an efficient fishing gear management scheme would lead to the better and inclusive plastic waste management circularity, as well as the move forward for the Thai and the region's fishing industry towards more sustainable and transparent fishing practices, which can both promote marine resource conservation and food security for the people whose lives are highly dependent on the eco-services of the oceans. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Salisa, for sharing the experience and the initiative that you're supporting, and for showing to us the concrete results of the initiatives that you're promoting. We're now moving into a session when we will have all panelists on screen, all panelists together in a little bit of a dialogue on the experiences that we have heard, and maybe some reflection on how we could challenge the current level of progress and ambition and take it to a different level. And I'm going to ask the panelists if we can please keep it a little bit as a dialogue. So I'll ask you to maybe respond to the question succinctly so that we have an opportunity to exchange. And I'll go first to Chindarat. Chindarat, you've been talking about very interesting experience in the context of the plastic footprint reduction project. And I wanted to get your sense of where you feel the progress has, the level of progress is now in the region in promoting circular economy, and maybe what is the gap that you still see ahead of us?
Thank you, Eliza, for the question. Our region had come a long way in the uptake of the circularity across the plastic value chain. To me, applying circular economy principle to packaging would transform the plastic economies and drastically reduce leakages into the ocean. And this principle is supported by the leader in our region at the ASEAN Summit since 2019. And today, circular economy is on the national agenda in a number of countries in our region. And for the large and medium company that we work with in the project, they see circular economy as a new way to conduct their business. So they work with other companies along the plastic value chain to find solution. So at the moment, what I see is that large and medium companies are leading the way. But if you live in Thailand, you might notice that in Thailand, you cannot get single-use plastic bag if you shop at the large supermarket. But you still can get single-use plastic bag if you shop at the fresh market. So there are implementation gaps that need to be addressed, involving small businesses and the mom and pop type of operation. And this is the same situation with the plastic value chain. So one of the challenges of our plastic footprint reduction project was that suitable alternative material are still comparatively expensive. There is also a shortage of infrastructure, both mechanical recycling and chemical recycling facilities to support the rising demand from circular economy. And when we look, the technological innovation in alternative material, in recycling and energy recovery are moving so fast. These technologies need to come down the cost curve and scale up to meet the market demand. And collaboration between government and private sector would help to move this agenda forward in a timely manner. So I'd like to conclude that our region had made good progress, but we are still in transition, and there is a lot of work to do to unlock the full potential of the plastic circularity. Yeah, thank you.
Chindarat, thank you very much. Very interesting perspective. And you pointed us to some of the directions of where you see challenges going ahead and how companies of different sizes have been able to take advantage of the opportunities, how at times alternatives have really not been proven to be economically interesting. Yeah. And you concluded on a very important point of collaboration that I heard a lot of speakers bring to the fore in their intervention. I'm going to ask Hester's advice again, building on your experience, Hester. Where do you feel the biggest challenges or bottlenecks or difficulties are there to move into circular business model for industries? What has your experience been teaching you?
Well, I think now the whole world is talking about race to zero. okay, which is a very, very tall order. Okay, and in fact, when you look at net zero, you also have to look at what sort of target are you setting, how are you going to track and trace performance and all. And of course, we actually have set the science-based target, validated carbon reduction target since 2018. So we are based on science in terms of the number, the number that we look at, how much we want to reduce, and by 2030. And in 2018, we set the target based on 2 degrees, and that was before IPCC advised that we have to look at 1.5 degree. So after that, actually this year, we after 3 years, we have to update it to based on 1.5 degree. So we have already sent to science-based targets for validation. And then, of course, under science-based target, you have to look at embodied carbon, not just scope 1 and scope 2, because you also have to look at scope 3. Then this is the biggest challenge, because when the scope 3 is concerned, you are talking about supply chain. You are talking about, outside your company, So how do we engage them? I still remember 4 or 5 years ago when we talked to, some of the cement suppliers, when we asked about sustainable concrete, cement, and all of them look at you like, what are you talking about, So, I mean, but the business has changed a lot. And of course, today, when we talk about climate emergency, nobody asks you question anymore. The science is very clear. Now it's like, how do we engage and fast track the collaboration? Because as developer, we rely on contractor, supplier, engineer, and everybody, the whole value chain to come up with a building, which is a mega project. So how do we get everybody on board from the mindset to the actual practice? I mean, they can tell you that, oh yeah, we'll do it, but how do we turn into action into impact, and then you trace the impact and for us to report? So that is a lot of complex process. And when you deal with people, that is the biggest challenge. If you deal with people who may not have the knowledge or may not believe in it, that is the biggest challenge for my own journey over 20 years. Yeah, so I think we're looking at the brighter side of things, and then more people are actually understanding the better on the impact of climate crisis. So I think the business case now is stronger than ever. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Esther. Very, very interesting experience. You brought to the table 2 points that are very interesting. One of bringing everybody on board, engaging everybody, but you also referred very nicely to the connections and opportunities that the growing attention to climate has been generating, as well as, the accountability that has been generated behind climate, and how that could create more transparency on the impact of the circular solutions that you're putting forward. Thank you very much, Esther. And Kian, I'll bring you back on the stage, on our virtual stage. And you have been really very strong in your initial intervention when referring to the integrated model that you have designed for your product. And Kian, you already alluded to the role of one actor in the circular system, which is also the consumer, the user of the product. Kian, can you go a little bit more in depth for us on the integrated model, and maybe specifically on the role of actors such as the consumers and the users of your product?
Sure, 100%. I think I'll use the HHI, as a case study here in Malaysia to share with everybody. I think here in Malaysia, when we first talk about fighting for plastic pollution, our model 1.0 is that we depend on government, to be the key driver to make everything happen. Model 2.0, we are waiting for the big brand, or the big brands are basically the key drivers to push forward and trying to create the initial inertia of plastic recycling. And then that includes forming EPR or PRO, or we call MARIA here in Malaysia. And when they are doing a wonderful job by making a very ambitious pledge and still continue to push this along. And I have a lot of respect of the effort and resources and bandwidth that they have invested in it. Now, 3.0 is even more interesting. 3.0 come from consumer or plastic user or the eco-conscious user, if you will. So if we look into Malaysia as an example, the entire experience of the eco-conscious user or plastic users in Malaysia has been rather frustrating, simply because the user wanted to do more recycling. However, the informal community are not very visible to the everyday household user. That's number one. Number two, the user will also follow what the government is trying to do to separate the plastic scrap. Certain days, the recyclables are collected by the right truck. Certain day, the recyclables are basically mixed together with other general truck. So that has been very frustrating because all their effort has actually gone down the drain. So they wanted to continue to contribute more. However, without the support, it is very difficult for user trying to be an advocate to influence the others to embark on this eco-conscious journey. So what HHI has done is that we are right now designing, our digital solution whereby we will simplify and create a whole new user journey, whereby we make it very simple, very convenient, and very meaningful for all these users to contribute their recyclables. So for example, if they have recyclables, go to our app, and then we will connect them to the legal or formal mobile pickers to collect the recyclables, and then we will show where would this be dropped off, and therefore create a very simple, convenient, and also meaningful act in there. One of the interesting feature in there is a individual plastic neutrality. Malaysian use 76 kilograms of plastic per capita per year, according to Solid Waste Malaysia. So that means all of us will need to collect and contribute 76 kilograms, onto the whole circular economy. So by creating digitalization, it then makes this a lot easier, and suddenly the informal community will be a lot more visible for those who want to participate in this. Now, this is something that's very important for the eco-conscious consumer. The minute that their recycling part from household is sorted, once they felt that, hey, this part is sorted for me, this community very quickly will then become the eco buyer or eco purchaser of recycled products or any product with more recycled content in it. In fact, not only that this eco-conscious buying, group or market share will start to grow, they will actually go out and influence people around them to actually come in and to join in this, circular economy. So then it will fast forward the entire shift from, what was previously a very product-centric, buying things that are pretty, they're prettier, smarter, and cheaper, into buying into the entire life cycle related to plastic product or plastic packaging product. And not only that, if you give the eco-conscious buyer two choices, one is a linear economy, the other one is a circular one, they will stay with the circular one, they're willing to pay premium, and at the same time, whatever they collect, they will then contribute and make sure it goes into the entire circular model, and so that at an individual level, they can achieve the individual plastic neutrality status. So I think, very exciting things that's happening. And again, through collaboration and digitalization, magic happens. So watch the space.
Thank you very much, Kian. Thank you very much. I'm getting the sense that we're actually getting very close to the end of the session. So I'm going to ask a super quick question to Salisa, as there was a very, very direct question from the audience on how you had engaged communities to go for recycling rather than discarding fishing net. But I really have 1 minute, Salisa.
1 minute. Okay. Yes. First of all, I would like to say that, and to make it clear that communities that we work with, from my experience, I think they already have the will to actually not discard fishing nets into the ocean. But why do they do it? Oftentimes it's because that locations that they are in, the areas that they live in, might be far away from the proper waste management system, and that leads to them having to throw the fishing nets away. And within the Net Free Seas project, we use the incentivization, so we pay for the discarded fishing nets at a very fair price and above the market price at the moment, to use that to motivate them, and also to because when fishing nets that can be recycled will have to be clean. And it's the work of the community members that will have to take that part of sorting, cleaning, and separating the ropes. So that is to also support them and also create them another career for their community.
Thank you very much, Salisa. And I'm under the impression that we're going slightly beyond the time that was given to us for the session. I guess this is a signal that the topic has really been very, very interesting. And I've seen there are further questions that are being asked to participants, and we'll make sure that your questions do receive a response in writing from your panelists. I'm very, very thankful for the participation of this amazing group of speakers that have been with us today. Thank you very much for having shared with us your experience and your knowledge. I thank the participants who have been with us during the session, very actively engaging with us through the question. And I wish all of you a very nice continuation of the day, evening or morning, wherever we are listening to us from. Again, thank you very much for having been with us in the session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.